me forward.
Okay.
Okay, good. You need to sign that. Okay.
Hey, Barry.
Happy New Year,
How are
Barry.
you?
Happy New Year. Oh, I got that dreaded flu.
You sound like you do. As soon as you said hello.
Trying to stand as far away from people as I can.
Oh,
Okay.
I know, really. Take that and leave me.
It is 3:18. We have a quorum, and so I would call the Is it working? Okay, it's 3:18. We have a quorum. I would call the regular scheduled meeting of the Community Preservation Committee to order. It is Tuesday, January 20th. It's our regular scheduled meeting. And present are Barry Rector, Rich Torr, Rich Brannigan, Christine Glazer, and myself, and Glenna Stokes-Scarlett as the administrator. The agenda has been circulated. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated.
so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion relative to that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda are the approval of the revised minutes of November 18 and December 16. Those have been circulated. As revised, I would entertain a motion to approve those revised minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It
Aye.
carries unanimously. The letter from Adrian Danner, the project manager for the Housing Assistance Corporation, has been circulated, and I do have a copy here. Are there any comments with respect to it?
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm just, I was a little curious on the intent of the letter and what we're to do with this. I think we understand from going through the process, where there's opportunity lost, without getting bond approval and without getting fully funded. I guess my question, other than reviewing the letter, is what do we do with that and how do we affect change?
The only issue that I'm aware of right now is that there are no issues with respect to our warrant. Because I've been away, I haven't had a chance to talk to the Finance Committee Chair, the town's treasurer, relative to the status of the bond. And so I apologize that I wasn't able to do that before this meeting, but I plan to meet with him before the end of this week, because I have my surgery next week, and to find out exactly where we are. The town had requested some additional information from us relative to the history of Sache's path and from the beginning in terms of when we started supporting this through the CPC and what we've done. We provided all that information to the town, and so I just don't know the status of where the bond is at this point in time. Aaron?
Can we just have that flag for town council to be aware of it?
Town council was aware of it.
Oh, good.
It was raised with town council at the meeting of the FinCom, the first meeting of the FinCom.
Perfect.
There were two separate issues with respect to our warrant and then the bond issue. Town council raised the issue with respect to the question of the ability to do it because of the level of
Affordability aspect.
the affordability aspect
Right.
with respect to the project. I think we have satisfied him that the project will meet the level of affordability with respect to that. Also provided him the information with respect to the separate article that we had as a town through from the state relative to approval of this project.
Right.
So that material's been with him. He is aware of it and was going to be crafting it. He felt that the bond would probably need to be issued to the Nantucket Housing Authority as opposed to as opposed to Libby Gibson. the town manager, but he was going to check on that. And that was the only issue those were the two issues that he raised at that particular point in time. That was before Christmas. It was the first hearing of the FinCom.
Was he aware of also the changes that are taking place in relation to this transferring from housing assistance to the current entity that they've proposed?
I'm not sure that he was aware of that, because I think that's subsequent information.
That's where I'm kind of tracking this whole thing toward as well. Just to make sure that, especially if a bond does happen, that everything's exactly where it should be.
Right.
That there are no substantive changes that also need to take place too in terms of who the entity is.
Right. Well, what I had left it with him at that meeting of FinCom is that we would be looking for town council to craft, in connection with the finance department of the town, the language relative to the bond that would be funded out of our revenues, but they would be crafting the language.
I'm just saying respectfully, I think you must be aware of this issue too before they proceed too much.
I'll make sure
That's a
that
good
I
point.
get that.
So-
Go.
I just wanted to make sure, so we're discussing this letter, this correspondence from Adrian Danner.
Yeah.
Does this reconcile with your big accounting issue that you had last fall?
We've got, the accounting issues all been straightened out.
I know that, but with regard to if they are requesting that we make payments payable to Sachem's Path as opposed to the Housing Assistance Corporation, is that going to float with all the issues that you had this past fall? Do you know what I mean, in terms of how
Yeah,
town sees the payments and...
I see it as a couple of different issues going on here. Relative to their letter, it looks like it's an accounting bookkeeping adjustment. And so they don't want to receive the money from CPC to Housing Assistance Corporation. They created this entity for this project, Sachem's Path Nantucket LLC.
Exactly.
So I think this board needs to make a motion to effect that change so that we can handle the bookkeeping so that they can receive the money. So that's the way I see that letter. Now, as I understand, I didn't attend FinCom in early, but from Ken's recollection and from his reporting on that, FinCom was comfortably satisfied with our warrant, and specifically as it related to this project, and understood full well that we were splitting up the award, one in our warrant and then the balance via the bond. Now, this extra questioning, I don't know what's driving it. Number one, it could be the fact that the town is realizing that they can't supply this money out of their general fund like they did for the field, because the field was never a bond. They provided the 1.1 million out of their general fund. So that information we came to realize in the fall of this year. The town is probably realizing that they cannot affect that in the same way, because this money, as it relates to this bond, is going to a separate entity, not a town entity. The field is a town entity. This is not a town entity. And I think that's realizing, okay, they're going to have to do the paperwork if the bond passes. So I think we need a motion to address the request that they're making in order for them to receive the current money that's on the table as it relates to this phase one infrastructure, this $1 million that's in the kitty that they're starting to draw off of.
Well, are they looking for approval from us that that's okay as far as we're concerned, that they have this in-house bookkeeping that they want to take care of? I can see where it would be easier for them to just have the monies that are outgoing as the Sachem, designated as such as Sachem Path. But are they looking for us to say that's okay with us, that
Yes.
we need to refer this to further
Well,
down the road?
No, we've got to make a determination whether we're comfortable, based on the information that they've given us, that this entity is solely owned by them and is, its sole purpose is the Sachem's Path project.
Okay.
And to the extent that we can make that determination, and we're able to comply with the warrant article, which indicated that the money was going for the Sachem's Path project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I'm comfortable in making a motion for what's on the books right now, that we administratively and from a financial standpoint change the recipient of the award from Housing Assistance Corporation to Sachem's Path Nantucket LLC.
There's a second to that motion.
I second that.
Okay.
Can further discussion?
The Sachem's Path LLC is administered by whom, Rich?
Housing Assistance Corporation.
Carol, the letter states, the main paragraph is, moving forward, we would like to request that the CPC requisition payments be made payable to Sachem's Path Nantucket LLC instead of Housing Assistance Corporation. Housing Assistance Corporation is the sole member of Sachem's Path Nantucket LLC. However, for bookkeeping purposes, we've now opened a bank account solely for Sachem's. The tax ID for Sachem's LLC can be found on the attached IRS form. I've also included the new tax ID on the requisition cover sheet. That's the main body of the request.
Further information is since they have been involved in other projects in the state, is this how they customarily handle it?
I don't know that.
Should we know that? Is there any reason to know that?
I don't see a reason to know that.
It seems to me
Yeah.
that, Barry?
I'll let her finish first, but I do want to weigh in on this.
No, I'm done. I'm just putting that question out there.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question, but as you read the letter and then you look at their tax application to the Department of Treasury, Sachem's Path LLC, care of Housing Assistance Corporation, and then they provide their SSC form,
Right.
the date of this, and the number. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. It was just a question.
No, that's fine.
I'm finished for now.
Barry?
So that's what I was saying. I don't have a lot of experience with this. I mean, Housing Assistance Corporation has certain obligations and the ability to meet those obligations, whereas with this newly created entity, should there be problems or failures, I'm a little unclear as to what type of recourses can take place, i.e. should the project go to failure. It does put a degree of separation between that and the Housing Assistance Corporation. I think with the fact, too, that they've involved themselves with grants from us, this is where I'm going to go back to what I said a few minutes ago, just I think for sake of liability for this particular organization, I'm feeling like we really should just run it by town council so that they're aware of it and just say, okay, you guys can proceed ahead. With the bond coming up as well, too, you're essentially changing the entity. So from all those liability perspectives, including our own here, I really just would like town council to be aware of that change and weigh in
Amend your motion?
before and we can table it for a month. I don't want to be waiting on this. But that's just my feeling, and I feel strongly about that.
Rich?
Very done. Can I jump in now?
Well, Rich had a comment. Rich Turner.
No, I agree. I mean, I think on surface is what's been provided to us. I think that the direction feels sound, but to be properly vetted to make sure that everybody's protected, and then to also make clear to them that this change moving over to LLC, I would ask or figure out a way for us to discuss that the paperwork and the reconciliation and everything is fluid, and it doesn't become two different documents that we have to struggle to reconcile through two different entities along the way. I assume they will do that, but I would ask to make sure that as we move forward with approval, that the accounting and reconciliation is seamless, and it's not two entities that we have to close one and open another as we finish up through the approval processes.
I'll follow up. Perhaps your motion would just be that subject to review by town council?
That's fine.
Is that your amendment as well,
Yes, it is.
Christine?
Yeah.
That's fine.
As amended, is everyone in favor of that?
Yep.
Carol, any other comments?
I didn't come on that, Ken. Can you repeat it?
I was just going to have Rich amend his motion so that it be subject, that it's approved subject to review by town council.
Yes, okay, thank you. May I make a comment now, or are
Sure.
we ready to second that?
No, that's been, Christine's agreed to amend her second, so now it's open for comment.
Okay, I was sort of following along with Rich and Barry. My concern is the LLC is housing assistance as a corporation, right? As opposed to the LLC being created.
There are two separate.
Such as staff.
There are two separate legal entities that are involved.
Right.
The LLC called Sachem's Bath Nantucket and Housing Assistance Corporation, which is in existence.
And housing assistance
Right.
is the sole.
And Housing Assistance
Member.
is the sole member of the LLC.
So, I believe it was Rich or Barry that made the suggestion that this be continued until next month with our questions and concerns being answered. From my end, it's the LLC entity, and does it change anything as far as the corporation being within the LLC?
Well, the motion is to approve this subject to review by town council. If town council comes back and indicates to us that there are issues, then we haven't approved it. We have to address the issues that are raised by town council.
So we're going to approve it subject to town council signing off on it.
Approve it today?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's the vote. That's
That's the
going to be
motion on the
voted.
floor.
Motion on the floor. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as put forward to approve, subject to approval by town council? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any?
Nay.
One opposed. Okay.
Yes.
It carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kamal, as usual, you're here as a visitor. No comments? Thank you. The fund requisitions that are in place, items number Roman 1, items A through F. A few of those, Carol's haven't been formally signed by her, but they've been reviewed by her.
I actually haven't seen that because they don't usually send them until Friday, so can you just tell me the amount, please?
Yes, there are two of them. One is for $35,723.68 from fiscal year '07, and the other one is for $115.20 from fiscal year '15.
Ken, I think you can sign off on that.
Okay, and the others have been reviewed and signed off, other than Tobias, and we can approve that subject to Rich.
Based upon what we just voted on and what we just discussed, how are we going to approve $146,000 to HAC this month?
Slash Sachem's.
Well, we're going to hold that payment. We're going to approve that subject to the
Same. Okay.
same condition with respect to because it's their request is to start to have those payments go into that entity.
I'm fine with that.
So that would with the proviso as to that being subject to the previous motion that we just passed.
I'm fine with that.
I would then entertain a motion for items Roman 1, A through F, with the proviso as to item B. So is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Old business. What was requested earlier on was to circulate the existing operating budget for this fiscal year for the administration, and that has been circulated a number of times, and it is the detailed package that is provided by the accounting department. And then the second was the outline of the budget for fiscal year 16, which would go into effect July 1st, and that is the half-pager in terms of the different sections with respect to coming to the total of the $125,000 that is in the warrant article relative to the administration budget for 2016. So I will open the floor to any suggestions or questions with respect to that. Rich?
I just had one question about the phone expenses. This is done through the town system, so that's allocated proportionally. Because if we were setting up our own business, I'm sure we could have a phone or an internet system that would cost less. So does this?
Well, that is done through the town.
It is through the
Yes.
town. Okay.
Any other questions?
The cookies budget. I was
I
a little concerned about the cookies budget.
You want me to answer that?
Oh, that'd be fun. Thank you for sharing out. I'm sure Carol has some questions.
Well, that's at Carol's request. She likes the cookies from the Nantucket Cookie Company rather than the Pepper Ridge Farm cookies that we can get at a much lower rate from Stop and Shop.
That's great.
Right.
Okay, those are my only comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Carol, I have a general question for my education for the, let's see, where are we? The 2014, when we were, 219% over this and 280% over this in percentage used. I think that was the year 10, the books, not the books, but things just got a little out of hand.
Well, what
That's the
happened-
reason for those figures.
Yeah, what happened was that a number of things came up, and then we also didn't have enough money in the budget,
Right.
so we had to figure out a creative way to reach into the anticipated funding for the future year.
Right. Okay.
Fund it.
Okay. Let me know if anybody else's hands up. This is probably just called educating Carol. What are professional services, which increased from fiscal 14, 25,000 to fiscal 15, 36,000?
They include, what we did was we had to shift Neville around in terms of the category because having been a town employee, he couldn't be another employee. He had to be a consultant or a contract person. Independent contractor. So that ends up showing up under professional services.
As well as constant contact.
It was
Well,
the trip to
constant-
St.
well,
Bart's.
we also have engaged with Constant Contact, which is the company that we use to be able to do all of the information getting out relative, all of the emails and all of that, to let the public know about who we are, what we're doing, and what we've been achieving. So those are the two items that reflect that shift.
Okay, so that 36,000 is both Neville and the other entity. Do we know what percentage is the consulting rate, the amount actually spent on the consulting?
I don't have that number handy, but it's what we did was the money that we were paying when he was salaried, we just translated it over to the amount that gets paid to him as a consultant.
Okay, so is that amount roughly the 2014 figure, which is 25,000?
It's probably somewhere around $20 an hour, something like that. I think I'm off the top of my head, that's my recollection, but I'm not sure.
Okay, Okay, we should get that broken down from finance. And then the other thing is the salary, comma, temporary. What does that mean?
Well, that was part of where we had Neville in, because of the fact that Glenna gets a salary, and then we had Neville in, but it was determined by the accounting department and finance that he couldn't be there as a temporary salary. So that's why for part of the year he's there in that way, and then the rest of the year he's there as in professional services.
So he's part of salary, comma, temporary, and professional services?
Right, to get for 2014, for this year, yes.
Well, that's listed both 2014 and 2015.
Well, that's this year. I mean, it's a transition year. In the budget for fiscal 2016, he's solely in as professional services.
And do we know how much that amount is coming relative to weekly, or how much are we spending on the consultant out of professional services? As a question I would like to figure I would like to have.
I don't have that off the top of my head. I will get you that number. I mean, it's the number that we've been using for the last several years in terms of the money that we're paying. So, but I'll get that information to you.
Okay, and then as far as salary goes, is our office administrator, is that a 40-hour week? Is that full-time?
It is considered full-time, but it's not 40 hours a week.
Okay, does our office administrator, what benefits does she receive? Is she receiving health benefits?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. So that would be good. And if we have that information, then we will know what Glenna's salary is and the amount we're paying for consulting.
Well, I'll get that. That's not a secret number. I just don't have that number.
I realize it's not a secret number. That's not what I'm saying. I just think that would be helpful information.
Yeah, and structuring the way that we have it with respect to the contract, Neville does not get benefits.
Right. I remember the whole conversation about that.
And his consulting contract is for 19 hours, and so it is
right.
for just under 20 hours, so that we comply, that we do not run it afoul in terms of making him eligible for anything. Okay, so
right. No, I understand that. I'm interested in seeing how much we're paying for the consultant as opposed to the office administrator's salary.
That information.
It's easily available. I'm just raising that question.
Yeah. Well.
And that, I can ask the finance. It's public information. It's no big mystery.
We'll get that. Carol,
figures I would like to see. Hello.
We will get that information to you. We have Glenna and Neville running the office. We have structured it in a way so that it is most cost effective to us to be able to utilize the history and talents of Neville as well as the skills and talents of Glenna. And the reason that it's structured this way is to be able to try and figure it out so that we can comply with the town's rules as to what we can do, but also to have it done at the most effective price point for us as a committee.
Oh, I understand that, and I understand that the arrangement was to achieve that. So it's just information for you.
Yep. Details
asking for an additional line in the line item budget.
And we'll get that to you.
Okay, then, is there any reason for any further discussion on that? Then I have another question on the fiscal 215 sheet, not relative to this.
Go ahead.
Okay, the first four, 212 CPA surcharge, all of that, I don't understand why we're getting, what is the reason for the negative figures there, Ken? It's probably very simple and...
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I'm on the sheets that the finance department gave to us on the 13th of November 2014.
There was one sent out after that. She's not looking at this.
Okay, and what is the information that you have a question on?
The first four line items, which are called the 2012 CPA surcharge and CPA surcharge, CPC surcharge, those negative figures simply indicate money going on budget. That it's just a I want to understand what those figures indicate, because they're all listed as far as I can tell from the form, as negative. So these are things that we're paying out.
Carol, when you get back, I'm gonna, because I don't see them on the document that I have, which was issued on January 14th. That may be the adjustments that they make with respect.
Okay.
No, let me just tell you what I think it might be. The adjustments that they make with respect to the amount of money that we estimated would be available, and the actual monies that were collected in the fiscal year under the CPA legislation. Okay, because there's
Right. I think that's what it is too, Ken, but I'm not sure of the format they use. It's not clear that that's what it is, or it's probably perfectly clear that it's not something that I am understanding. So I can,
when you get
I'll
back,
be home tonight. Okay. So I'll send an email and copy Glenna in a few days.
okay, all right, because that's when the material that we get finally in the October time frame that deals with the amount of monies that we have available in the various categories, what you generally see in that chart is the actual and our projected, and there's always a difference between that in terms of what the records say that we should collect and then what the town then actually does collect, and that has to be adjusted in terms of the monies that we've spent and the monies that we have, and the adjustment made to the reserves that would be available for the subsequent year.
Okay, it's fine, Ken, and I think I'll end with this last question, and it's a page I'm on from the Finance Department information on the line item budget from November 14th, and there are such things as salary temporary, and I'm assuming that, and then the next column is year-to-date actually used. I'm assuming that that's only the quarter because the fiscal year begins on July 1st.
That's correct. That is a current, up-to-date report with respect to the actuals up to that point in time.
Okay, so if we're considering, and there's other things besides salary here, they're saying the revised budget, okay, 49,000, and they're saying in the first quarter they've all used close to half of that already, in the amount being 22,000. And that's true for several other things in that column, and since it only indicates it's for the first quarter, it doesn't make sense.
It's just generally timing.
Okay.
In terms of when it's going, as opposed to the way that it was budgeted. I mean, it might have been budgeted that we should have spent all of that at that point in time because of the timing of the nature of the category.
Okay. I'll send an email to you and copy Glenna on this.
Okay.
Because I think somebody just needs to clarify things for me on that. You know, when it's saying in percent used for fiscal 15, that it's saying in some columns we've already used 100%, we've already used 44%, we've already used 40%. But I'm sure we can easily educate me on that one.
Yep.
I think I'm done with any questions on this subject for now. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions with respect to the review of the budget, the current one and the proposed one for next year? Hearing none, are there, the next item on the agenda is new business. Is there any new business? Rich?
I'd just like to make sure that the committee, I'm going to stay on Sachem's Path because I think it's the biggest, it's obviously the biggest and the most timely project we have going. You just ride past Surfside Road, and they're going gangbusters right now in there. And in the last couple of weeks, I've gotten correspondence from Adrian Denier of HAC, and also Kevin McGuire, who I think everyone is familiar with. And Adrian gave me Sachem's Path newsletter, which is available on site or online for anybody. You just go to Sachem's Path and you get their current newsletter. It's very informative. I enjoyed reading it, and it was timely. And then Kevin McGuire gave me additional insight into the project, which I think everyone needs to be cognizant of. And this last paragraph in his memo, he's stating that formal advertising for Phase 1 is going to begin in 8 weeks. This memo that I got from Kevin McGuire was dated January 15th, so that's telling us that in the middle of March, the formal advertising is going to start in the paper for the Phase 1. They currently have 450 interested families who have reached out to HAC, or Sachem's Path. 75 are in the category of 150% of the AMI. 70 are 100% of the AMI, and 350 are for up to 80%. So I think it's really important information for everyone to be kind of knowing that this project is hot, it's timely, and they're going to be reaching out to the community in real short order to start building Phase 1. So I'm just relaying that information. I'm just relaying that information.
Rich?
I have a question.
Yep.
Rich, for the tour, is that a 10-10?
You're kind of breaking up, Carol, but give it a try.
Oh, I was just asking if anyone gotten approvals yet. Of the applicants, are they in the pipeline?
Are there any what?
Have any of the applicants been approved?
Been approved.
No. The formal, as I just read, Carol, they have 450 interested parties or families that have expressed an interest to submit the formal application. In 8 weeks, within this 8-week period, their formal advertising and formal application is going to occur. And so, okay.
Mr. Turner?
Carol,
I'm thinking up a lot for some reason. I think I probably can sign off for now. Maybe we can quorum.
We're okay.
We're okay.
well, we'll call you if we need you.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
All
Bye,
right.
Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Bye.
Richard, thank you for that. I just wanted to share with the group, and I had some questions too. It's been interesting to me. I did sit in a meeting over at Housing Nantucket with Ann Kutzba. Henry Sanford was there as a board member. Greg O'Brien, that does a lot of public relations work on the island. I had also suggested to Ann that they may want to speak to Greg. What's interesting is you really have at least 4 warrants that speak to the need for housing coming up, right? I mean, if you consider our warrant that has 3 or 4 different items from those that we have approved so far, then there's the bond, which is a separate warrant. The town, I believe, is you would know this more than I, but there's a warrant to change zoning, I believe, as well. So that's 3, if not 4. And what's interesting to me, if you really start to take a look, having had a conversation with, I want to say Kevin McGuire, he's from Sachem's Path.
Yes.
Okay. I think they have plus or minus $15,000 approved as as kind of their ad plan, their go-to-market plan, to have awareness here. And I think there has been a lot of great work. It's interesting to me, though, that with all of this happening, with several warrants that speak to housing needs, workforce housing, however you want to describe it, that there hasn't been yet a level of collaboration, on the larger story. So when you think about Satcham's Path needing to talk about their particular needs, or Housing Nantucket working to make sure that they support the warrant that's going to change the zoning, it's how might we, and I don't know that we have the ability to affect change, even though it wasn't the budget that the CPC approved, but how do you make sure that there's the right path and the right visibility to the marketing and the communication on such a big issue for the town, and then selfishly, or as importantly, such a big issue for the amount of money that we've put forth, in the 2 warrants through the CPC's recommendation coming up to the April meeting.
Yeah, you're certainly asking a grandiose question relative to affordable housing, and I've been here for 20 years, and there's been so much chatter and initiative, affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing. Well, it's kind of coming to fruition as it relates to Satcham's and as it relates to Housing Nantucket and these few other initiatives that are, okay, now is the time, okay, this is happening, and everybody should be on board because we have a housing need or a housing crisis, whatever you want to call it. So it's a collaborative effort, and I think each entity who's got quote unquote skin in the game is gonna step up. Is going to step up and make sure their parties are at town meeting, so their voices can be heard. That those who have the budget and the wherewithal to start marketing and start a PR campaign will start it, and it should be smooth sailing is kind of what I'm suggesting. And the only questions that I have heard in the last 12 months on this project are 2 things. We better make damn sure that the 40 recipients are Nantucket families, okay? So, and I've communicated that to Adrian and Kevin and whoever else I speak to from HAC. You've got to make sure that you got 400 interested parties. You better make sure that they're all Nantucket families, okay? Not somebody from off island said, "Oh, I can get a nice house at this price and I'm coming in," okay? That'll be a death nail, okay? So that's one thing I've heard. The second thing I've heard is how much skin in the game does HAC have? How much do they have in it? They know what we've got in on it, okay? We got a fair amount in on it. We got a couple million in on it right now. The state has kicked in a little under 2, and it's likely they're going to kick in a little more than 2 again once they know we come out of this year's town meeting with what is in our warrant. So the state is in for $3.54 million, and they've indicated to me on this January 15th memo, HAC has $200,000 invested in the project, and that number will go up another $500,000 in order to get Phase 1 infrastructure complete. I think that's the only other thing I've heard. How much skin in the game? They're telling me they've got 700,000 skin in the game. So if somebody asks you that, that's what they're telling me.
So if I can just add to that, So this is a little bit about our scaffolding conversation with Christine, right? So it's this collaboration piece. My concern is coming into town meeting, if these issues are presented, even coming before we walk in the room, it may appear overwhelming, or the absence of collaboration and single voice could potentially work against each of the warrants when they're discussed or they're being solicited for vote and support. Because if you're a taxpayer on Nantucket and the town is trying to do this, but Housing Nantucket is over doing something else and CPC is trying to pull a bond, my concern is, just from a marketing and communication standpoint, is that it's harder, it may in fact be harder for people to grasp, but there may be too many entities with too many disparate buckets of money going to support this thing that might be portrayed as a concern for the voters versus having a larger umbrella and collaborative message coming in before. So I know we don't control that, but I am in fact concerned about it, and I remain hopeful. I've had good conversations with everybody. Ultimately, it's up to them.
Right.
But trying to work vertically in your organization to get your thing approved is important, and I understand that. But getting the larger message
Right.
approved and getting all 3 or 4
Right.
coming into the meeting, I think also needs to be part of the consideration set. And I don't see it yet.
Just let me add on. I think when Sachem's, who I have viewed as pretty complete and well documented, and all of their T's crossed and I's dotted, I would think they're going to make a real strong push to these 450 interested parties to show up at town meeting. And if those 2 warrants are called, and we've got 20% of that 450, we got 90 people in that room, that thing passes like that if it's called. Either one of our warrant or the bond. Question's done. Now, and if they're there for ours, then they're going to be there for the other 2 that could be called too. So they're going to reach out to these 450 people, however they reach out, in their newsletter or telephone them in the newspaper, and say, we need you at town meeting. And they show up, bang, done deal.
I think
Christine?
I appreciate what you're saying, and I think that you're correct. But I think on a very basic level, maybe all that's required at this point is a really good synopsis, and I mean a very concise synopsis of what all these different housing pieces, what they do, and who they potentially affect or might affect. And I don't know who puts that together. So, but
It might
that's
be-
really,
maybe the
that
Board
would
of
be so
Selectmen,
helpful.
because the Board of Selectmen are supposed to be addressing this article. I mean, housing is
No,
one of
I
the major
agree.
issues that they have to face. And so, to the extent that they take a stand on that, I think can be very important.
I think
Because
it's a
it's a
simple-
way to address the different approaches that we as a community have to try and start to get our arms around the issue.
Exactly. And I think, yeah, somebody should definitely take that on. And I don't think it would take very long. And I think it would be fairly simple to put together. So if you want help.
Yeah,
You know.
I think maybe we could give a shot at like a rough draft, and then I could pass it around to my board members. In the thought that there's going to be a zoning article to change this facility, some of the zoning here, so we'll have some more space to do a large commercial project. I don't know how people feel about that, but the intention originally was that this would be affordable housing in one regard or another, and the board has come to the feeling that if you want to help people the most and be most cost effective, you got to do apartments.
Absolutely.
That's what Aspen's done, and
Yeah.
so that's what we're looking
If
for.
we don't have affordable housing in that nature, we're never going to be able to make a dent in this problem.
Yeah. I came in late, I'm sorry, but just one thing I wanted to add in. I reached out to HAC because the Board of Selectmen kind of had a vote in approving their warrant in regards to the bond for HAC. And I'm sure you guys were talking this, but I wanted to kind of give you my perspective.
Can you let us know what the Board of Selectmen did? Because I haven't been able to find out where we are on relative to the bond.
Right. So the Board of Selectmen isn't denying it in the warrant or anything like that. They want to see it move forward, but they want, and this mainly comes from Bobby DaCosta, and his feeling that HAC doesn't have enough skin in the game, and that the town shouldn't be putting up money for a private entity
Just address that.
to profit off of. And so what I did is I reached out to Craig Sperry and HAC, and I said, let me know when this comes up on the Finance Committee meeting, because I think that's the next. And the board was just asking FinCom to review it, and I don't think that's necessarily entirely out of place.
No.
But I think just to the board asked to look at it in a scrupulous side. So I think being at that Finance Committee meeting when it takes place is important. That's all I have to update on.
I've got a HDC meeting in less than an hour.
Okay.
I was hoping to.
Is there anything else that anyone wants to raise today? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you. Good luck with your surgery.
Thank you. Here are pictures
Those pictures
Fantastic
are
picture.
I drove by it.
Yeah, these, anybody who wants to see them, they're unbelievable.
awesome.
It looks-
Awesome. I saw them.
it
I
looks
saw them today.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope you feel better, Mary.
Oh, I will.
But I wanted to, I should have mentioned, I reached out to the
thing that's been
building
going on.
commissioner, Steve Butler,
And
and just kind of
unfortunately,
talked to him
work
about the,
subjects me
you know,
right
the
into the
issue
middle
of the
So,
roofing material, and he said, you
Pardon?
know, he kind of agreed
No,
with me
this
that
is-
it kind
no,
of
this is that-
goes
yeah, it's the
forward.
cold
It
that's been
hasn't
going
happened,
around.
but I think in the future, we
Spiral.
need to have, is what he
that's
recommended,
just
is to
really
request
all contained.
a sign off from
Yeah.
the building department
Thank you, I
before
do
any
appreciate it.
funds are expended.
Okay.
So just kind of improving our process.
Right,
But he
yeah.
didn't feel like he went and looked at it and talked to the contractor. He didn't feel that there was any changes.
You can come.
Structurally, like, we're liable, or, but it would be nice in the future to do it right.
Are we all?
Oh, are these yours?
You're a
Are
jerk,
they-
right?